What is going on? Hey, friends, welcome to the Talking Jets with Tigo channel. My name is Tigo, and we're doing a live stream tonight. We're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff tonight. We're going to be talking draft grades, undrafted free agents, the whole nine. I have been gone for the last week. For those of you who don't know, I went on a cruise on day 3 of the draft. If you haven't seen my last couple of videos, they've all been from the cruise. But we are back at home. We're back at the home station, ready to talk draft. So let's just hop right into it. Let's talk draft. We haven't been able to break down all that stuff, and then we'll get to some of the people in the chat. So excited for tonight. Let's start off with my overall thoughts on the New York Jets draft class, because there were a lot of, differing opinions on the New York Jets draft class. A lot of interesting takes on the New York Jets draft class. And honestly, man, I really liked this draft class. I feel like this was another home run of a draft. When you take time to sit and dissect and understand the thought process of the New York Jets, understand the draft strategy and the team building strategy of the New York Jets. And then the real thing is when I finally got home and I was really able to do deep dives on these players, not just the quick little, 4, 5, 6 games that I get to do, because I don't get to watch every snap of a player's career. I pick some of my favorite guys from positions that I think the New York Jets might be targeting, and I didn't get to watch every snap of Will McDonald's career. I didn't get to watch, every snap of Carter Warren or Israel Abanikanda. Well, I actually did, because I really liked Israel Abanikanda. But I didn't get to figure out who Zach Kuntz was, and Jarek Bernard-Converse and Zaire Barnes, and etc. But when you look at this draft class and then you add on top of that all of the stuff that we did when it came to like the offseason and all of this stuff, I honestly think that the New York Jets knocked this draft out of the park. The more I kept watching more tape of Will McDonald, the more I realized, one, Iowa State absolutely did this man a disservice by the way that they utilized him in 2022. I truly believe this. They cost him about 5 to 8 draft spots, and I believe that truthfully, and I think they underwhelmed his draft grade. Will McDonald, if he continued playing as a 5 or like 5 and beyond, as a 5, as a wide 9, a guy outside over the shoulder of the tackle, he would have been talked about as a top 10 pick. I truly believe that, but they bumped him inside, asked him to play end instead of edge and outside linebacker, which is really what he is, and it really plummeted his stock. And when you think of it in the terms of the New York Jets and our rotation of the D-line and the fact that this is Carl Lawson's last year and all of those things, Will McDonald, in my opinion, is a home run pick. Joe Tippmann, I've been saying this for a while, that I wanted either John Michael Schmitz, Joe Tippmann, or Luke Whippler. And with Luke Whippler, I wanted a veteran center to come in, because I think he still needed time. And Joe Tippmann and John Michael Schmitz, I was ready to have those guys start day one. And boom, we go and we get Joe Tippmann in the second. The man is just ready to play, and I think, honestly, is going to be our center for the next decade, and I love that so much. The New York Jets and Jets fans have been spoiled with center play, and not just center play, but elite center play for so long, and getting another guy that has the ability, or at least has the excitement to maybe live up to that. This is a franchise that loves their centers, unlike any other franchise. And so being able to get a center in the draft is something huge. Carter Warren, if you guys remember, I made a video about Carter Warren actually a long time ago when I was talking about, if the New York Jets don't go tackle in the first round, where are some of the guys that we can target? Who are some of the other guys? And Carter Warren was on that list as a developmental tackle, as a guy who has some upside and all of that stuff. And I honestly really, really liked this pick. Carter Warren is what everybody thought Max Mitchell was last year, is what Carter Warren, I think, actually is. A developmental swing tackle, a guy who probably needs a year to get ready. But watch out, next year he can probably compete for a starting right tackle job. He can probably compete for a starting left tackle job. And that's what Carter Warren is. I really like that pick. I had been pounding the table for Israel Abanikanda for a while now, the running back out of Pittsburgh. The guy's just explosive. 21 touchdowns for Pitt last year, 20 of them through the ground, one of them as a receiving guy. And partnering him with Brees now really and truthfully gives the New York Jets 2 home run hitting running backs. That's something that we were missing before, was a second home run threat in that backfield. Michael Carter is elusive, and he's a great yardage plus kind of guy, in the sense of if it's a 5-yard play and that's what it's supposed to get, he's going to get 8, 9, 10, 11 yards. But Israel Abanikanda and Brees Hall have that ability to turn a 5-yard play into a touchdown because they're just that explosive and they have that amount of speed. So bringing in him to be RB2 in my eyes was a great move. And then we got into some of these developmental pieces. Zaire Barnes, Jarek Bernard-Converse, Zach Kuntz, all guys that probably aren't going to have big roles at the beginning of this team. I don't expect Zaire Barnes, Jarek Bernard-Converse, or even Zach Kuntz to play anywhere outside of special teams. Like, I think that these are going to be special team heroes. Maybe even get redshirted in the sense of Zach Kuntz because he's injured. But when you take into consideration the athletic upside, Zach Kuntz grades out off of the charts when it comes to his, he is in the 80th, 90th percentile of every measurable statistic. And when you got a guy who's just that good of an athlete, I love what it did there. And then you add on top of that all of the stuff that we were able to do in the, free agent, undrafted free agent market. And it's just, again, another really, really interesting piece of news. Being able to get, let me pull up the list, being able to get interior defensive linemen, which is something that I think we all were really kind of interested in, being able to get a ton of wide receivers. We got 3 wide receivers to come in and compete for that Jeff Smith role, because I know that we were all tired of seeing Jeff Smith. More offensive linemen, more linebackers, another running back in Travis Dye, who I think has a legitimate shot of making this football team. Trey Dean, a guy that I had mocked to the Jets a couple of times, the safety out of Florida, who can come in and actually do something. There are so many players that the New York Jets are really going to have a really competitive 90-man roster. And watch out, because I think the New York Jets are going to be another team that are going to have a ton of our guys that we cut when we're moving from 90 to 53 that are going to get picked up by other teams. And this decision on the 53-man roster is going to be incredibly difficult, and I'm here for it. So I love all those stuff. If I'm gonna put the grade right here at the beginning of the thing. If I had to talk about the New York Jets grade by having all of those conversations, I think the New York Jets walked away from this with a B-. The only reason it's not an A is because obviously I think we all wanted to see the offensive tackle in the first round. Just because we went Carter Warren as the offensive tackle in the first round doesn't change the fact that I am worried about the offensive tackle position next year. Obviously, that being said, I still think it's a home run draft. Will McDonald is legit. Joe Tippmann is legit. Israel Abanikanda is legit. And when you've got developmental guys like Carter Warren, Zaire Barnes, JBC, and Zach Kuntz, a lot of really, really good stuff. Rico, the Pogtigo mi amigo, I've been gone too. Just moved from Michigan to Texas. Glad to have some Jets content again. Rico, welcome to the state of the free, man. One of the free states. Joking aside, I'm actually not in Texas. As a lot of you know, I'm in Florida, but I love Texas. We almost moved to Texas, me and my wife. Dom C in the house. What's going on, Dom? Johnny Jimenez, welcome back, bro. Dude, remember I kept saying that ODU Kuntz was going to be the biggest sleeper tight end? I remember watching him here at ODU, and he was a monster. Routes were crazy, and he can block. Johnny, he tests out incredibly well, and that's exactly what he's a super developmental tight end. He's got a lot of things that he needs to work on and a lot of stuff that he needs to develop into his game. He's not that crisp when it comes to the route running. He's not that great when it comes to the run blocking. But when you've got a guy that's this athletic and you've got a tight end room that's as deep as ours, the expectation is that he shouldn't see the field in any type of meaningful way for the next 2 to 3 years. And that's where you're going to see a guy like this and that in this pick paying off. It's not in the short term. This isn't a short-term pick. This is a long-term pick. CJ Uzama and Tyler Conklin, after we restructured their contracts, aren't going anywhere. Like, we can't get out from under their contracts next year, like, without taking on a relatively large dead cap hit. And we drafted Jeremy Ruckert last year. I don't think we're moving on from him anytime soon. So that puts Zach Kuntz squarely in tight end 4, and he's got to beat out guys like Nick Bawden, who's one of the better fullbacks in the league. And I know how much Nathaniel Hackett loves his fullbacks. And so he's got to provide some value there. He's got to beat out guys like Kenny Yeboah, who's been in the system for a couple of years and has provided that depth for a little bit and been a special team guy. So again, this is a great opportunity for Kuntz, obviously, but like, how great would it be if Zach Kuntz was our Shannon Sharp? You know what I mean? Like, I love the Shannon Sharp story. He's on the cut list. He goes out there and does special teams, and he earns his spot on the roster, and he just keeps working, and he keeps working, and now he's got a gold jacket. Now he's got his bust in Canton. And, like, how cool would that be if Kuntz is that? Now, that's projecting, obviously, Hall of Fame bound. I'm not saying that's what Kuntz is going to do, but that's the great part with these late-round picks is that, man, it's really easy to dream with these guys because, again, it's boom or bust. Are they going to be great? Are they going to suck? Who knows? I'm just happy that I'm along for the ride, and Zach Kuntz is definitely one of the guys to keep an eye on. Rico the Pup, Lawson Johnson, JFM Clemens, Huff McDonald's. It's like we drafted younger, probably better versions of the 3 kinds of defensive ends we have. Here's the thing, right? I think that Rico, I think you even put them, in the wrong order because it's not Lawson and Johnson. Jermaine Johnson is not the Carl Lawson replacement. Jermaine Johnson is the Jonathan Franklin Myers replacement. Clemens and Huff kind of fit in that, it's a weird area because they're really kind of specialists when it comes to that. And Will McDonald is the Lawson replacement. A lot of people keep looking at Will McDonald and saying that he's a pass rush specialist. He's only going to be utilized on the third downs, and that's absolutely not true. When he's positioned in a wide 9, when he's given that opportunity in a wide 9, he's actually really good in the run game when in the right position. If you look at his run tackling numbers on run snaps, I think he averages, I think he was at 9% when lined up in the correct position, which either 5 tech or a wide 9. When he was outside of the tackle during the run, I think he stopped the run 9% of the time. To put that into perspective, the number 3 edge rusher in the NFL in Will Anderson had a 6.5% run stopping percentage when lined up outside. Again, I'm not sitting here trying to say that Will McDonald is a better prospect than, Will Anderson or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying that is when utilized correctly, Will McDonald is a 3-down edge. At 5 or 9, he is a 3-down edge, and Lawson is on the last year of his deal, and I don't expect that we're going to be able to bring him back. And having his replacement, 1, learning behind him already, and 2, having an insanely good skill set like Will McDonald has is a massive luxury. And then again, it's just about depth on the defensive end position. I love this move for the New York Jets. And like I said, you just listed 6 guys on the edge right now. And the crazy part is, the reality is that the New York Jets have more players on the edge than that. We're forgetting about no, yeah, that's pretty much it, right? Bradley and Deslin Alexander, I don't think those guys make the roster, but being 6 deep at the edge position, those are 6 names that I feel comfortable on any down, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Jets did well with a limited hand going into the draft. I totally agree, Billy. We were dealt a short hand because obviously we had to do the Elijah Moore trade. We had to trade for Aaron Rodgers. And without having a whole ton of picks, Joe Douglas was able to maneuver around this draft and get studs up and down the draft, guys that I really liked. and then still address positions of need and fill the team with players and guys that we needed. So absolutely there. Zoe Royalty, who do you want to face in week 1? It has to be the Giants, right? Like, it would suck because I would love for our week 1 to be a home opener, and technically the Giants game would be an away game. But if it's not the Giants week 1, I want to come out with a bang when it comes to the New York Jets, when it comes to like week 1. I would love to face the Bills, week 1, to face Kansas City week 1. I would love to just put the league on notice week 1. I don't want to wait 10, 11 weeks to face Kansas City. I don't want to wait 10, 11 weeks to face Philadelphia. No. Give me the biggest, baddest mofos right at the beginning. Give me the Bills. Give me the Chiefs. Give me the Eagles, because I think that this team really needs to go out there and go, you know what? We're here. We're serious. We're contenders. Respect us, because look at what we just did to the guys that were in the Super Bowl. And we've got a really tough schedule this year, and I'm really excited to see what this team does, obviously led by Aaron Rodgers under center. So for me, obviously the Giants, because of the whole 9/11 thing, and that would be a really cool moment, obviously, to have that. I think that should be a Monday night game and all of that stuff. But if not that, give me the Chiefs, give me the Eagles, give me the Bills, give me the guys who are the kings of the castle, or who are being pegged as being better than the Jets, because I want to see what this team is made of. A-Rod's Mercedes Lewis, I just see him developing so great. That 6'8" almost is nuts, and that McDonald signing was huge, man. I loved our draft picks. Yeah, man. Kuntz is huge. 6'8", there's a massive, massive body, and this is something that not enough people talk about, not enough people realize when it comes to something like this, is that the Aaron Rodgers effect of it all is that we don't know which one of these guys is going to bust out onto the scene. We don't know which one of these guys is going to be the next Allen Lazard. Remember that Allen Lazard was an undrafted free agent. That's just the reality of it. So it's really, really interesting to think about all of that stuff, to have those conversations, and to, break all of that down. But I love this draft too. I'm excited to see Izzy out on the field. To me, he's like what we wanted MC to be, so he knocked him down to the list to running back 3. I think the reality of the situation with Michael Carter is that, one, I still think that he's an incredibly good running back, but one of the things that New York Jets fans, one of the things that we're going to have to get used to is the fact that we're probably in the business of signing or drafting a running back every single year. I don't see Joe Douglas giving a running back a second contract, period. And with guys like Israel Abanikanda being able to be got in the 5th round, the 5th round is like, we can get Israel Abanikanda. That's absolutely insane to me. And when you take that into consideration, if we got Michael Carter in the 4th, Breece Hall was available there in the 2nd. Like, when you look at all of those things, it's crazy to look at it. I don't see the New York Jets really ever investing that kind of money contract-wise to a running back, because you just draft a guy, even if it's as high as the 1st round. Look at, Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs. Those guys are going to come into the league and be impactful guys almost immediately. And it's not because I think that they're these like world-beating prospects. I think Bijan is an excellent player, and I'm not trying to take anything away from him. But I think that the NFL has broken down the running back position so much and taken so much of the responsibility of the running back off of his shoulders, off of the running back's shoulders, and put it on the offensive line. We're asking our offensive linemen in today's day and age to do so much more than they were in the past. And because of that, being a running back in the NFL has never been, easier is the wrong word, but has been made to be so easy. These guys are still incredibly skillful and they're still incredibly talented. But when you look at like offensive lines and wide zone run schemes and pulling guards and tight ends and really dedicating the resources to the run game and not just asking guys to run between the tackles and really creating these cutback lanes and designing blocking schemes and situations to do those things, I don't really look at us ever not taking a running back. I think that's something that we're going to do every year. Whether it's a 4th or a 5th round guy, whether it's a 6th or 7th round guy, whether it's an undrafted free agent, expect a running back every year, because I don't know if any running back is going to be on this team beyond 3 years. That was annoying me. But yeah. Daniel Faust with the super chat. Thank you, Daniel. Great program. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. There is the possibility that the Jets will not be very good. That the Jets will not only be very good. I was about to be mad, Billy. That the Jets will not only be very good, but they may well be an overpowering team that steamrolls its way to the playoffs and to the Super Bowl. And that's kind of what the expectation is, right? Like, I don't want to say that it's Super Bowl or bust. Winning the Super Bowl is the hardest thing for a team to do. But if this team doesn't make an AFC championship game, if this team doesn't make, that kind of thing, yeah, I'm going to say it. If this team and this roster, if it stays relatively healthy, what's going to happen here? What's going to happen here? Like, what are we talking about? What are we doing? I agree. So many fans fall in love with a guy. No, we don't need a running back, and we got MC and Bam. But it's one of the easiest spots to upgrade because talented backs fall in the draft, just like Izzy did. And my thing is like, I keep going back to what Kevin, the Buffalo Jet fan, said in one of our group chats, is like, good teams don't stop at good, right? Like, they don't just stop at a position of need, right? Like, oh, we don't need this player. Okay, that's great. You don't just fill needs. If you can turn a strength into a superpower, and that's what drafting Israel Abanikanda was, is turning a strength in Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Zonovan Knight into a superpower by adding another home run hitting threat. Now you're talking about a running back room that is legitimately 4 deep. And that's what this is, right? That's what this is looking to be. And so I love that. Do you believe the reports that we wanted to take Gibbs in the first? I don't know. It makes sense. Jahmyr Gibbs is one hell of a prospect, and the way that Nathaniel Hackett likes to run the football, again, we're going to be a run-first offense, and that's why we were going to take a running back in this draft no matter what. I had said that early, and people had yelled at me. I got ridiculed for it. Oh, we don't need a running back, blah, 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 just like the comment before said, right? And I said, it comes from a failure of understanding how this team builds a roster and failure of understanding of what our offensive coordinator likes and what he wants to do. He wants to build a run game. He wants to take the responsibility off of the quarterback's shoulders to make his life easier. Aaron Rodgers' life is going to be so easy with the New York Jets because he's not going to be asked to win games single-handedly. We're not going to ask him to put the team on his shoulders. Now, that's not because he can't do it. He absolutely can. But if you can make your Hall of Fame quarterback's job easier by giving him a run game and distracting opposing defenses with this, hey, are they throwing? Are they running? I don't know. We have to be scared of both because Aaron Rodgers is in the backfield and he can hit literally any one of these wide receivers at any point in time. But also, if Breece Hall gets the ball, he can take it to the house. If Israel Abanikanda gets the ball, he can take it to the house. Michael Carter and Zonovan Knight are going to get the first down every single time. Like, you have to worry about literally 7 or 8 guys on the field at a time when you're talking about like watching the New York Jets, because you got to worry about the quarterback, you got to worry about the running back, you got to worry about the tight ends, you got to worry about the wide receivers, and you got to worry about all that stuff. And that's the great part. So do I want to believe this? No, I don't like taking running backs in the first round, especially with guys like Israel Abanikanda, but I don't care. We got Will McDonald, and I'm really happy with that pick. Al Torres, Tigo, keep up the great ball. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Dude, Izzy and this running back room is so deep. Brees, MC2 is the corner. So it's MC, right? MC2 is the corner. Bam, Izzy. Wow. I totally agree. Totally agree. We've got depth at key positions, and we're still adding players. And that's the great part. It's not being done. Don't be done. Don't be satisfied. Never be satisfied. And that's the one thing that I love about Joe Douglas is that he's never satisfied. He's not okay with the status of the roster. If he can make the roster better, he's going to do it. And we've seen him do that constantly. The Sauce Gardner pick, the Jermaine Johnson pick, the Will McDonald pick. Well, Jermaine Johnson, we needed an edge, right? But let's keep going, right? The Will McDonald pick. We didn't need the edge, but Will McDonald pick. The Breece Hall pick. How many of us were cool with a running back? You know, you keep seeing that he's not scared of adding to positions of strength, going and getting his guys and doing all those things. So I love the depth that we have on this team. It's fantastic. Without realizing it, the Jets may be the best team in the NFL. Yes, I said it. I find that, Billy, I love the optimism, but games are not won in May. Right? Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. Forgot about that. But games are not won in May. I will say this. There are only two rosters that I am worried about. 2.5 rosters that I am really worried about when it comes to the NFL. And those 2.5 rosters are the Philadelphia Eagles, because they are legitimately a complete football team. They don't have almost any holes on the Philadelphia Bulldogs. They are a complete football team. Yeah, they probably need an upgrade at linebacker. Yeah, they probably need a couple upgrades at safety. But the Philadelphia Bulldogs are an incredible, incredible franchise. It's a good thing that they're in the NFC. The half team that's also in the NFC, so I can talk about them, is the San Francisco 49ers. As long as Kyle Shanahan is the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, I'm going to be worried about them. That's the reality of it. As long as he's the head coach, I'm going to be worried about it, because even though I'm not the biggest believer in Brock Purdy and now they got Sam and all that stuff, Kyle Shanahan knows how to win with quarterbacks. He knows how to make those guys work, and he's going to do it. So they're my half roster. Just because I don't know what to expect from that running back room. And then it's the Kansas City Mahomes, right? As long as 15 is under center in Kansas City, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And that's the reality of it. But, again, games aren't won in May. The New York Jets haven't done crap to earn all of this stuff. You got to put that product out on the field. You got to go out and win games. The New York Jets haven't done a ton of that recently. We haven't done a ton of winning games. But when you take into consideration that last year we won 7 games with some of the worst quarterback play in the NFL, and then we had 6 one-score games last year that we lost because we couldn't put up double-digit points in some of these games and certain things like that, I look at it and I go, I think Aaron Rodgers is worth at least 7 points per game as a bonus. And if we had Aaron Rodgers, even with the broken thumb last year, we're a 13-win team. And I say that full confidence that we're a 13-win team. And so we should be in every single game this year. Every single one. I love it. Zoe Royalty, we are so deep offensively, tight ends, wide receivers, running backs. We may have a defense that actually gets turnovers, and is only soften. Not sure what you mean there at the end, but I totally agree. We finally have... I felt like with the New York Jets, we've always had one piece of the puzzle and not both pieces of the puzzle, if that makes sense. If you look at like the Rex years, we had some of the best defenses in the NFL, but the offenses were the things that we were lacking. Mark wasn't the best quarterback that we could have had. Mark wasn't this guy that we could have focused on and really asked to carry the roster. Like this, that's not what he was built to do. And that's what we were asking him to do. And then it was all on the run game, and then we couldn't get the passing game really going, and it was a whole thing, right? And then you look at the the Ryan Fitzpatrick years and that electric offense, and the defense kind of just be, you know what? Those defenses were good, but like, again, it never felt like we had both pieces of the puzzle. Now it feels like we have both pieces of the puzzle. It is insane. It is insane. And I know a lot of people are going to be really, really looking at me weird when I say this, but I think this defense is going to be able to take a step forward. We were a top 5 defense last year, according to DVOA. I think that we can take a step forward because I think that we got better. I think that legitimately. I think this defense got better. Sauce Gardner in year 2. DJ Reed in year 2. Jordan Whitehead in year 2. Adding Chuck Clark to that safety room and improving the black hole abyss that was the LaMarcus Joyner. Bringing back CJ and Quincy and keeping the linebacker room relatively safe. Adding more pass rush depth because that was an area of need. Like, guys, our pass rush kind of fell apart towards the later end of the year. Yeah, we like Jonathan Franklin-Myers and Jermaine Johnson and Carl Lawson, but like, it kind of fell apart. Making a move that I never expected the New York Jets to do and go out and get Al Woods, a big run-stuffing defensive tackle, which is we'll talk about that a little later in the show, but wow, did that blew me away. And so I absolutely expect big things from this defense. I think that this defense has the opportunity to not just maintain the status quo, which I think would be more than good enough, but I think to get better. I think teams are going to watch the tape with Sauce and they're going to do the dumb thing and they're going to start testing him more. And that's dumb. You shouldn't test Sauce. So I love it. I love our defense. I love what we've been able to do. I love that we've added pieces to it. And then you go on the offensive side of the ball. Garrett in year 2, Alan Lazard and McCole Hardman coming to this team. Corey Davis taking a reduced role, so hopefully he stays healthy. Randall Cobb coming in and really being able to, have a conversation and help these youngsters and some of these guys in this locker room get up to speed with what, Aaron likes and how he wants things to operate. Israel Abanikanda running behind Brees and Michael Carter and Bam, and Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzama finally not being used as 6th and 7th offensive tackles and actually being used as weapons, and Nick Bawden being healthy. And I know that that's not a big deal to a lot of you guys, but I love a fullback, and I think that we're going to utilize it great. And then just health on the offensive line. That's the biggest thing. Is got to just preach health, man. Got to preach health on that offensive line. The Jets' main focus right now should be to ensure the defense doesn't take a step backwards. I agree, 10-star, and I think that we're going to do it, man. I think they're going to do it. It's not the Eagles' fault that a bunch of GMs allowed the best players in the draft to fall to them. No one's blaming the Eagles. They played the draft phenomenally. Howie Roseman did a great job. The Philadelphia Bulldogs went out there. They knew the players that they wanted to target. And here's the thing. They went into this draft, and Philly did not have a bunch of needs. Voice crack. They did not have a bunch of needs. They needed a linebacker, they got a linebacker. They needed some safeties, they got some safeties. But outside of that, they didn't have a bunch of needs. They didn't have a bunch of holes on this roster. Somehow, miraculously, they were able to bring everybody back. Like, that's crazy to me, man. They did an excellent job. An excellent job. I find it funny how just a year and some change ago, we were pounding the table for tight ends. Now it seems we have too many to count. But Xavier, let me ask you a question. Don't you kind of feel like that when you look at the offensive skill positions? Don't you kind of feel like that with every position on the offense? Dude, a year ago, we were pounding the table for wide receivers. We got Garrett, we got Allen, we got Corey, we got McCole. Dude, we got wide receivers coming up the butt, and we were looking to add even more guys. We added Randall, and we were this close to bringing in Odell Beckham, and I would not be surprised, and I'm not telling us to do this, but I would not be surprised if Antonio Brown posted him in a Jets jersey, wanted to come to New York. I look at this offensive skill position group, and we got players upon players upon players upon players upon players, man. I love it. I love it. 49ers have Lance, Purdy, and Darnold. If Rodgers misses any time, Boyle/Zach is not winning a football game. I don't agree, Kev. The reason I don't agree with this, Kev, is because we've seen Nathaniel Hackett as an offensive coordinator win football games with trash quarterbacks before. You know, he took Blake Bortles to an AFC championship game, and Blake Bortles is not a good quarterback. Now, I understand your hesitancy. I'm not saying that they're going to go out and win the games, of course. I'm not saying that at all. But to say that those games are lost, I don't think that's true either. We finally have an adult in the offensive coordinator room who understands how to adapt and how to change an offense based on the skill set of what his quarterback has and based on the skill set of what his players have. And he can scheme up really, really easy throws for Tim, for Zach, for all of those guys to get them going in the right direction. And I think people are underestimating the mental effect that having Aaron Rodgers is going to have on Zach. Now, I'm not saying I want to see Zach this year. I don't. I want Aaron Rodgers to play all 20 games this year. All 20 of them, right? And to win all 20 games this year. That being said, I don't think it's lost. Would you have picked Nolan Smith over McDonald 2 years younger and faster? No, because Nolan Smith isn't an edge rusher. Nolan Smith doesn't have a role on this team, that type of player. He needs to go to, and hopefully the Eagles can kind of help him develop into what Hassan Reddick is, right? But Nolan Smith really should be an outside linebacker in a 3-4 system so that he can be asked to play in coverage and to pass rush and play in those amoeba fronts. But when you're looking at having him as a exclusive pass rush, like an exclusive pass rusher, which is what the Jets were looking for, right, is a hand in the dirt kind of pass rusher. And obviously Will McDonald can stand up and rush. I'm not saying that he has to put his hand in the dirt. But when you're looking for a true wide 9, 5-tech edge rusher, that's not what Nolan Smith is. So while I love Nolan Smith as a prospect, what I would have taken him as is as a project linebacker, not an edge rusher. And I would have used him in a Quincy Williams kind of role. That's what my expectation would be from him if he came to the New York Jets. I had a hard time projecting him working at the NFL in a true 4-man front that's asked to do things by themselves. You know, he was used in a ton of different ways in Georgia. And yes, in college, while you're edge rushing, in college, life is a lot easier for you. But Nolan Smith versus some of the faster tackles and some of the bigger guys in the NFL, I don't know if he's going to have that skill set. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that what happens is that he's just like Hassan Reddick, in the sense of like, you know what, he can do it even at that size and even at that, but I don't like 100% the Hassan Reddick comparable, because I think that the answer for Nolan Smith is actually somewhere between Micah Parsons and Hassan Reddick in the sense of utilization. He should be used more in coverage, kind of like Micah Parsons is, but even a little bit more than Micah Parsons is. And even though he has a pass rushing skill set like Hassan Reddick, he shouldn't be used like Hassan Reddick. So it's somewhere in that weird range of what he is. But I would not have liked the Nolan Smith pick for the New York Jets for that reason. So there you go. Hope that answers your question. Jets mess, yo! Do you think Wilson is still the future starter or no? I think it depends on how long Aaron Rodgers is around. If Aaron Rodgers is around for anything longer than 2 or 3 years, then I have a hard time seeing Zach Wilson being the starter for this football team. But if Aaron Rodgers is only going to be around for the next 2 years, for the next 3 years, that's a different conversation, Chiefs. And I still believe in Zach. I think he just needs to sit. I think he needs a full mental reset, honestly. But I'm not willing to give up on that guy that guy yet. I think he's got all of the talent in the world. I think the problems are up here and not with his game in the sense of like physically being able to do the job. I think it's all mental, and being able to sit behind your hero, I think, is a big deal. So again, I'm not worried about Zach right now because like the number that he wears on his jersey, he is the number 2 quarterback. The only focus I'm going to have for the quarterback position this year is number 8, and that's it, because that's it. He's number 8. He's great. He's 8 the great. And so that's what I'm going to do. I have to be the only Net fan who's not sad that we got an edge rusher instead of an offense. Oh, Jet fan who got an edge rusher instead of an offensive tackle in the first. I actually wanted O-lineman, wanted Olman Smith for the linebacker position. Nolan Smith for the linebacker position, but after digesting the tape on both players, we got the better player. Okay, I got it. It took me a while to get there, but I got it. Yeah, I agree, Tinstar. I think that, again, Nolan Smith is such an interesting prospect, and I had such a hard time ranking him and grading him. If you look at my edge rusher prospect, I put him in as the number 5 edge rusher, and it was because it felt disingenuous putting him as a linebacker, but it also felt disingenuous putting him as an edge rusher. Will McDonald would have been my number 5 edge rusher if it wasn't for Nolan Smith. I had to put him somewhere. I had to put Nolan Smith somewhere. That being said, it's very hard for me to project where he's going to play. There's no one that's that athletic and that small, plays the position that he played. Like, there's no real comp for him. It's one of those guys where, like, you draft him and you kind of just try to figure it out. But, like, we've seen the New York Jets take athletes before, and kind of try to make them work. Ashton Davis is one of those guys. Zach Kuntz is one of those guys. He's an insane athlete that we're going to try to make work. And while he fits what the New York Jets want, he's a locker room leader, he's a captain, he's an athletic freak. I just don't know how he fits in a 4-3. I'm really, really happy that he went to Philadelphia because he's going to be able to sit behind a guy who looks exactly like him. And he's more athletic than that guy in Hassan Reddick. So hopefully the Philadelphia Bulldogs can figure out what to do with him. So, because I want Nolan Smith to work out in the NFL. In my opinion, Zach needs a full year reset holding a clipboard. I don't think Zach Wilson can learn. If worried, he may have to relieve Rodgers at any instant. I think you have to for his mental to keep him engaged, Kev, do that. Knowing that Aaron Rodgers just doesn't miss games, right? He doesn't miss snaps. He doesn't miss anything. And holding the clipboard, I was a backup quarterback, and there's a difference between the backup and the third guy, because the third guy who's holding the clipboard, who's holding the playbook and doing all that stuff, you got to look at everything. You got to look at everything else on the board at that point. And you got to look at, like, just looking at the play is what I'm trying to say. Just looking at the play and seeing what happens, you're not as engaged. But as a backup, it's like standing in the on deck circle, right, in baseball, where you're like sitting there and you're watching the pitches and you're following through. It's about taking the mental reps. And I think that you bank on the fact that Aaron doesn't get hurt, and he's just not going to get hurt. That's just what happens. Even if he gets hurt, he's going to play through it. He's done that his entire career. And I think you don't worry about it. But again, I'm not worried about the backup. Instead of picking up Wilson's 5th-year option, do we pull the same move Green Bay pulled? We can, absolutely. It'd be up to Zach if he wants to do that. Did you notice Nolan Smith has thick Coke bottle glasses? That could be a reason why he slipped so much. Kev, I don't think he slipped. That's the thing. A lot of people didn't know where he was going to go. It was hard projecting where Nolan Smith was going to go because not very many teams use that type of player. He could have gone as high as a top 10 pick, and he could have gone as low as being outside of the first round. And I think that's because he's such a polarizing prospect that, like, we didn't know what he was going to be at the next level. This draft class, outside of the top 8 or 9 guys, was like that, right? How many people liked this wide receiver class? I didn't at all. I didn't want any of these wide receivers in the first or the second round because I didn't see the value. Everyone that was screaming JSN or Zay Flowers at 15, I just don't get that. Those guys aren't needle movers. Those guys don't come to this team and start as wide receiver 3. Like, they're wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 on this football team. I don't think JSN is better than Alan Lazard. I don't think JSN is even better than Corey Davis. And that's not a knock on JSN. That's just saying that his skill set as a slot receiver, I don't think is as important or as big as the skill set that Alan Lazard or Corey Davis in the slot provide. That's my point. And so, the same thing with Zay Flowers. Is he an insane athlete? Is he a great wide receiver? Do I love the fit and what he can do? Absolutely. But you have to look at it in terms of fit for the New York Jets. We don't use those types of slots, especially with Nathaniel Hackett now. Nathaniel Hackett likes a big-bodied slot. Alan Lazard and Corey Davis are going to live in the slot all year. I would not be surprised if Denzel Mims even got some snaps in the slot because he loves his big-bodied wide receivers in the slot position. Why? Because he's a run-first offensive coordinator. Putting a big body in the slot, one, creates a mismatch because now you can put really tall, big receivers against slot corners, and those guys don't have the skill set to keep up with those types of guys. And I'm not talking in terms of speed. I'm talking about in terms of strength. Imagine Michael Carter having to cover Alan Lazard. That's not a good matchup for Michael Carter. Now, I think Michael Carter can do it because he's a dog, but that's a different scenario. Not every team has Michael Carter, and that's the point. And so when you have those things, and then the other thing is, what happens when you have that delayed run, right? What happens when you have a delayed draw? What happens when you have a delayed sweep? What happens when you have these things? Having a 6'3", 6'4" wide receiver who can chip a linebacker and get to the second level really, really quickly because he's lined up close to the offensive line, and now you can have pseudo 2 tight end sets because you have big slots. That's the thing. We didn't need the pass catchers per se because we've got so many. Don't forget that Tyler Conklin is a really, really good pass-catching tight end. We just didn't utilize him because we didn't have really good quarterback play last year. If we were going to address wide receiver, I would have wanted to address it in the back end of the draft. Bryce Ford-Wheaton, Andre Yayoshivas, those kinds of guys. I really liked those kinds of guys over the first end guys because they didn't find the value there at 15. And I think that's the whole point of this comment. I know I went on a super tangent, Kev. Sorry. But the point is, outside of projecting the top 7 or 8 guys, it was really hard finding a fit for these teams because I had Lucas Van Ness as a top 10 prospect and he went at 13. I had Christian Gonzalez as a top 10 prospect, and he went at 17. I had Anton Harrison as a top 15 project. He went in the 20s. There was a ton of these players that I looked at, and I was just like, you know what? I had really high grades on these guys, and they slipped. The draft became a crap show out of the top 6, top 7, 8 guys. And that's why this draft class wasn't that great. But that's me. In my opinion, if no tackle Anton Harrison, at 15, if no tackle Anton Harrison, I still think JG should have picked an offensive player, Jason Zay or Kincaid. Well, I kind of just went on that tangent. Hope that answered your question. Look at that. Totally agree. John, I don't know what you're agreeing with, but I love it. Do we get a second premier pass catcher, or will the depth do enough to max the lack of a second premier pass catcher? Xavier, this is the biggest question of this team. Can Aaron Rodgers and the depth that we provide turn a guy that we may not have thought as a premier pass catcher into a premier pass catcher? Guys that I look at that might be on that on the brink of, hey, maybe these guys can be premier pass catchers. Alan Lazard. Now, Alan Lazard is going to finally be in a wide receiver room where, he's not the number 2 wide receiver, right? He was there with Devontae Adams, and the whole offense ran through Devontae Adams, and that's a different situation. We don't have a Devontae Adams. We have Garrett Wilson, who I hope can be as good as Devontae Adams. I'm not saying that he's Devontae Adams yet because I don't think he's that good yet. I think he has the ability to be that good. But we have one premier pass catcher in Garrett Wilson. But can Allen Lazard, in a system that has all of the other pieces there, be that? Probably not. We've seen that. Corey Davis was a former first-round pick. Now with a lesser role, can he stay healthy? Can he fight through those injuries that maybe he wasn't willing to fight through before? Can he fight through those injuries? And can he become a premier pass catcher? I don't know. McCole Hardman is fast as balls, and he's got that skill set. Can he turn into a premier pass catcher? I don't know. And you keep going down the list. Denzel Mims, we were really, really high on it. Now he's finally going to have a quarterback, and now he's finally going to have an offensive coordinator who's going to know how to utilize his skill set and his size and his speed because that's what he loves. Do you think Denzel Mims can become a premier pass catcher? And let's not forget about the fact, that running backs and tight ends can be premier pass catchers. We talked about him just a second ago. Tyler Conklin is a legitimate pass catching threat. He's a pass game threat at the tight end position. Can Tyler Conklin take that next step forward in his career and become a premier pass catching tight end like we all think that he can when he finally has a quarterback throwing the ball to him? And an offensive coordinator that knows how to use tight ends. Let's keep going on that list. Jeremy Ruckert. We were all insanely high on him, and he essentially had a redshirt year last year. Does Jeremy Ruckert explode onto the scene 1 year early? Who knows? Michael Carter, can he finally become the pass-catching running back that we expected, essentially playing in the slot? This is a great question, Xavier, because I have no idea. I have no idea what's going to happen when it comes to that second premier pass catcher. But what we can do is do a second premier pass catcher by committee. And instead of having Garrett Wilson going for 1,500 yards and then having Corey Davis go for 1,100 yards and having two premier pass catchers, I would not be mad if Garrett Wilson had 1,600 yards and then like Allen Lazard had 500, McCole Hardman had 3, Corey Davis had 5, Randall had 250, Denzel Mims has 3, and just really get that second wide receiver going and get the hot hand on the second wide receiver. Who's catching the balls the most that day? Who's doing the best that day? And really use the hot hand when it comes to that part of it. This is a great question, and this is actually one of the things that I'm going to be paying attention to all year because that tends to be the formula, is 2 premier pass catchers. We talked about this before on this channel, right? Every team that's doing exceptional things is doing it with 2 premier pass catchers. Now, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs didn't have 2 premier pass catchers last year, but they had the best tight end in football and arguably the best pass catcher in football in Travis Kelce last year. And when you put that combo together, that's a scary combo. Well, I think that we have the makings of a very similar combo with Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson, but the difference is that in Kansas City, they don't have the run game that we do. They also don't have the depth at wide receiver that we do. They have Patrick Mahomes, and that's their game changer. So again, very interesting question. Jordan Love's 1-year extension was an interesting option instead of choosing the 5th-year option. That could have been good for Becton, like $8 million guaranteed up to $15 million with incentives. Here's the thing, Kev. I don't think Becton would take that. If you're Becton, why would you take that? Right? If you're Becton, if you play exceptionally well, you're going to get a massive contract, right? You're going to get $16, $17, $18 million. And that's awesome if he plays well. And that's great. But if he doesn't, again, it's a little bit of a risk either way. I kind of wanted the New York Jets to take the 5th-year option. I didn't think $13 million was all that much money. But it is an interesting avenue to look at now that teams are doing this. Now that we've seen one, we need to see another team do this. Who's the next team that refuses a 5th-year option but gives them a contract extension anyway? Because that's the key. That's the key. Do you think Zach Azanzi can unlock hard and route running? I need you to clarify this comment, Xavier, because I'm not sure what you're talking about. Jordan was a backup for Rodgers. Becton never proved to be healthy. I think that's a little bit of a mischaracterization of what happens. But it's an interesting contract. I don't want to this is a really interesting way to look at it. because, like, this could be an option. Hey, we declined the 5th-year option. Actually, I wouldn't mind this at all. The more I think about it, Kev, you're kind of onto something. You're kind of onto something. Whew, this is something. Oh. The more I think about this is really interesting. This is a really interesting idea. Do you want Hard Knocks, or it could be the distraction? I don't want Hard Knocks. We have one Jets drive. I don't need Hard Knocks. Matt Hardman. Oh, here's the thing with Azani, right? He's our new wide receiver coach. And here's the thing. Here's the thing with Azani. I don't know. His tenure as a wide receivers coach hasn't been exceptional, right? He was wide receivers coach with the Bears in 2017. He was wide receiver coach with the Broncos from 2018 until last year. I don't know what Azani is as a wide receivers coach. That being said, I hope he can. Again, I think the thing with McCole Hardman is I think he was kind of being pushed. He was a square peg being pushed in a round hole kind of a thing in Kansas City. They were really trying to turn him into Tyreek Hill, and that's not what he is. Just because he's that fast doesn't mean he's Tyreek Hill. And so I think that unlocking his game is going to be more about finding how we can utilize his skill set in a non-gimmicky way. Because right now he's the go guy, he's the jet sweep guy, right? And if we can come up with relatively simple timings and simple routes that utilize his skill set, watch out, because I think he can be explosive. Simple, like, dude, give him a 6 or a 7 route tree. That's it. You got 6 or 7 routes. You got a 5-yard in, a 5-yard out, a 7-yard in, a 7-yard out, a 5-yard slant, a 7-yard slant, and then a curl. Can you do a curl? How quickly can he stop, right? Like, if you give him just that, and then obviously a go ball, like a go, a fade, all of those things. If you can do those things with him and get him implemented just there, don't do any of the double move stuff. That's not his skill set. Don't do any of those like sweeping routes. Don't ask him to do, you're going to run 5 yards and you're going to cut. That's it. You're going to 5 yards and you're going to aim at the post. That's it. Like, if you can give him those things, I think he can absolutely be utilized in a very, very good way. The problem is that Kansas City doesn't use those kinds of routes. They use double moves. They use a lot of layering. We do too, but like a lot of layered, complicated routes because they have the wide receivers to do that. And not just because they have the wide receivers to do that, because they have Patrick Mahomes. Like, he can extend the play and he can keep it alive. And then he can hit a guy running a complicated route. So we make the lives for wide receivers relatively easy by making the lives for the quarterback's wide receiver relatively easy, and we just run like layered routes, right? Like a 5-yard route followed by a 10-yard, like a 5-yard in followed by a 10-yard in followed by a crossing over the top, and then like the wheel route, at the side as the dump off, and that's kind of what we're gonna do. So again, yes. Ultimately, I'm saying yes. Saying I don't know if we're gonna unlock his route running, but I think that we can expect better things because he's gonna have a simpler job here in New York. If Becton plays well and gets a big free agent contract, I'll gladly take the 3rd round comp pick. No, he'll get a big contract with the New York Jets. Dude, we can't let him leave. We don't have offensive tackles on this team. Like, he's not leaving. We'll give him the money to stay. That's a problem. We don't, where can he go? $13 million is a lot when your back's against the wall cap-wise with Quinnen still to be signed. Well, $13 million would be next year, right? where we have a lot more cap space next year. And again, you can maneuver the cap situation. Like, I'm telling you, Quinnen Williams' cap hit this year is going to be like $7 million. I'm putting it like right now. I'm calling it right now. That's it. It's going to be $7 million this year, and then like $15 million next year, and then he's going to have like a $34 million cap hit. Like, that's what his contract is going to do. I'm telling you right now. We have a lot of bodies on the O-line. Who do you think gets cut in the end? This is a great question. It's a great question. 1 second. All right, I'm back. That's a very interesting question. I think Mekhi Becton, Billy Turtle, Max Mitchell, Carter Warren, Dwayne Brown all make this roster. So I think we probably go 5 offensive tackles. And then you're probably going to go Laken Tomlinson, Joe Tittman, Elijah Vera Tucker. Those are your interior offensive linemen. So there you go. That's 8 guys. And then we're probably going to go Connor McGovern, Wes Streiser, Tristan Colon. I think we probably carry 11 offensive linemen. That's probably a realistic number. With how many injuries we had last year, that's a real thing. We probably carry 11 offensive linemen. I think we're only going to carry 3 running backs. That's an interesting conversation to have. I also think that we're not going to carry, I think we're going to carry 10 defensive linemen instead of the 11 that we did last year. Then we're going to carry 6 edge rushers and 4 defensive tackles. I think we're only going to carry 5 linebackers. I think we're going to carry 7 corners. It's very interesting. I have no idea because I want to keep Wes Schweitzer and Tristan Colon. They provide a ton of depth. But like, if you tell me, Wes, you're getting cut. Tristan, you're getting cut. I get it. I totally get it. We have a lot of bodies in that offensive line room. And the great thing is like guys like Cedric Ogbehi, you can stash him on the practice squad. And I hope that we can. I hope that he doesn't get picked up. I really like Cedric Ogbehi as that like 6th, offensive tackle on the practice squad. Because like he should never see the field. I hope he never sees the field. He's really the 7th offensive tackle because we have Elijah Vera Tucker. But with how many injuries we had in the offensive line last year and the acquisition of Aaron Rodgers, better safe than sorry. I would carry 10 or 11 offensive linemen personally. I would stack that room as much as possible. I totally forgot the cap hit was going up next year. I'd sign the 5th year. Again, I would too. It would be next year. We have a ton more money next year, technically speaking. Well, not actually. I guess now we have 0 money next year because of the Aaron Rodgers contract, which is just hilarious to me. But we all know that obviously the Aaron Rodgers contract isn't going to be $100 million next year. Like, that's like that, right? Like, come on. Aaron Rodgers is a $107.5 million cap hit next year. Like, that's not going to happen. Come on. But like, again, when you take into that consideration, we have 45 players signed next on the roster for next year. So yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting. Dude, we still have $10 million. That's insane. We have $10 million. Yeah, you re-sign Quinnen, get him to a $7 million cap hit, then you got $12 million. Then you go out and you add Quan Alexander for 5 or 6. And then you're done? This team is done, right? If you add Quan and re-sign Quincy, this team is done? Who's still available? Free agency tracker. Linebacker. Like, who's still available? Are we interested in Miles Jack at all? Probably not. He's a bum. Can bring Quan back, obviously. Yeah, we got money. We got money left. That's interesting. Anyone know the story about Ty Johnson getting cut? He had a non-football, right here, he had a non-football related injury. Draft class has to be signed. I think over the cap is already including the draft class. Let me make sure. Because their contracts are, we know what their contracts are. Oh, they are not. Ah, great catch, Nolte. Great catch. Is it? I'm going to check it. Nope. Jarek, he's there. Israel there. TJ Luther there. No, this is including. Yeah, no, I'm right. This is including all those guys. We still have $10 million. They're including all of the draft picks, signings. You have to remember, year one for draft picks isn't a lot of money. This is including all of the draft picks. And remember that your cap hit is only the top 51 players on the roster. So everyone past Kenny Yeboah doesn't count because they all make less than $1 million. So they don't count up against the cap. So like Randall Cobb, well, I don't know what his contract is yet, but like Carter Warren is making $750,000. Joe Tippmann is making $750,000. Will McDonald is technically making $750,000. Like, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. Let me go to Spotrac. Interesting. It's still interesting. We still have money. We still have places that we can create money, which is the craziest part. Like, that's the craziest part to me, is that, like, the Jets can still create money. $10 and Control F will. Oh, you're right. Yep. That's $5 million is going to come off. Sorry. I spent way too much time looking that up. Hope Kuntz makes the 53. I think they will. I think he will. You don't use a pick on a guy and then just don't keep him. It's going to be our 5th or 6th wide receiver, Denzel Mims, and then Alan Lazard. Randall Cobb. Our wide receivers are probably going to go Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, McCole Hardman, Corey Davis, Randall Cobb, Denzel Mims. There's your 6 guys. Boom. Easy breezy. Did you say Ty Johnson was cut? Yes, sir. He was cut for a non-football related injury. He got hurt working out. Heard Cobb's deal is $3 million plus. That's not bad. It's not bad at all. We have like the cheapest running back room. That's how you win football games, man. Cheap running back rooms. Connors keeps reminding us to watch out our details of contract next week, that we will like him more. Wonder what he knows. Ooh. Alrighty, guys. I think I'm going to end the stream there. I have the flu. I've been trying to power through. I have the immune system. I have a dead cat. I don't know what the words are. It's not great. Always sick. I hate it. But I got it on the last day of the cruise, and I've been trying to fight it to try to get back to full health. But I'm not feeling super hot. But talking about the draft, I loved our draft class. I love the players that we brought in. I loved all of that stuff. It was a great, great draft class. Our undrafted free agent class I thought was very interesting. A lot of guys that can make the roster. A lot of guys that can be impact players for this team in the short term and in the long term. I was a guy that really believed in keeping Jordan Whitehead, but after going out and getting Trey Dean and having Tony Adams, and we have Ashton Davis, and we got Chuck Clark, and we got some of these other guys on this team, you know, that contract becoming more and more likely for me to cut, with like Quan Alexander still needing to come to this team. There, again, a lot of things coming in that are really, really interesting. And I love what we're seeing out of this team. But yeah. Alrighty, guys, thanks so much for hanging out. We're going to get a ton, once I get fully healthy, right? I'm going to try to pump out content, but I'm still not feeling too hot. But we're going to do deep dives on all of these prospects. We're going to do breakdowns of rookie minicamp, all of that stuff. The offseason is in full swing. Free agents that we can sign. I didn't even get to talk about Al Woods. And I really wanted to talk about Al Woods. But I'm just not feeling well. So I'm going to end it there. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. Again, we'll be back live with more enthusiasm next week at 9:30 on Friday. We're here on the channel every Friday at 9:30. And again, we post daily New York Jets content now that I'm back home and in the command center. So let me know what you guys want to see in terms of content. Who do you guys want me to talk about? Are there any other teams' draft classes that you're interested in hearing about my opinion? Let me know in the comment section below. On your way out, hit the like button. It would be greatly appreciated. I love all of you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. And last but not least, go Jets.